At Decospan, we are rooted in connection. Welcome to Decospan's podcast series Rooted In, where today we focus on the future of wood. With my guests, Karla Basselier and Pieterjan Desmet, we will explore how one of humanity's oldest building materials still continues to play a vital role in our society and more than ever has a bright future ahead. Welcome to our show.
Rooted in connection. Rooted in design. Rooted in nature. Rooted in craftsmanship. Rooted in innovation. Join us and explore the spirit of wood. Welcome to Rooted In, a Decospan podcast.
When I heard that one of the episodes in our series would be about the future of wood, I immediately got very excited. I mean, there must be so much to talk about. The future of wood, it's really inspiring. Wood has been here for us since like forever, and for me it became quite obvious. But what is really the future of this material? That's a very interesting question I really want to discuss with you today, Pieterjan and Karla. Welcome to our show and to our beautiful studio here at Interzum.
Thank you.
Thank you for the nice introduction, Wouter.
So, Karla, you are the CEO of Fedustria, and Pieterjan, you are the CEO of Decospan. Fedustria, if I'm not mistaken, that is the Belgian Federation of Woodworking Companies, right? Could you maybe please introduce a little bit what that exactly means?
Of course. So Fedustria is a sector organization, umbrella organization that represents woodworking companies, but also textile and furniture companies. In total, we represent about 1,600 companies.
Whoa.
And what do we do? Well, first we want to support our companies in accelerating sustainable growth, but also strengthening their competitiveness. And how do we do that? Well, we guide them through technical matters, social, economic, environmental matters. Every question a company could have can be addressed to us, to our team. And then secondly, we also want to influence policy through policy makers, politicians. We speak to them, we organize events. We want to have the best for our companies. And we want to also be near to them, because one of the things that is important to me is that we see our members as clients.
Okay. Sounds like you're really like a hidden force behind the industry, pushing for new boundaries.
Correct.
All right. And Pieterjan, we know Decospan as the European market leader in wood veneer processing, but there must have been quite a road to get there. Can you maybe shortly introduce how Decospan achieved this status?
Well, the road has been started by the foundation of our company. So I think it's we just elaborate. So the good thing about family companies always, it's about long term. So that's how it was always been led. So from my grandfather to the previous generation, which is my father and my uncle, to now our generation, who took over, I would say, the lead in 2018. And as the family grew, the acceleration grew, I would say. So I think what is nice to see in our company is that we never actually changed our strategy. We always built on the existing strategy. So like our previous generation was really operational focused. So they really grew by operational excellence. And I think one of the biggest drivers to become global leader as we are now, you said European leader, I'm a little more straightforward, I would say even global leader in the veneer industry, is because we made branded products, which we can push. And that being said, I think one of the big achievements of Decospan is that we reintroduced, I would say, natural wood into the specification market, into the architect world, as such that we have an answer with real material on the interiors. So imitations has been developed enormously last 20, 30 years, exactly. Which is good. Otherwise, there would be no more forest, I would say. But there is still a place for the real material, and that doesn't come for free. So I think Decospan is the company who introduced marketing, who introduced specification. And I'm pretty proud to say, and that's why I think we are leading, is that we do proactive work in pushing veneer back and having its place into interiors.
Yeah, I understand. It was quite a journey if I hear it like that. The topic of today is all about the future of wood. and we know it has been a vital part in whole humanity, let's say. And there are so many aspects to talk about. There is the economical dimension, there is a sustainability dimension. Of course, there is a lot of innovation, like you did with the branding and everything. So these are the things I want to tackle a little bit today. Maybe first start with this economical dimension. Today, the world is changing every day. What is the economical climate reflected to the wood industry, Karla?
If I look at our data and our figures, then 2024 was a good year. We saw the turnover in the woodworking sector rising by 3.4%. But the year before that, so 2023, was a difficult year for the woodworking sector, where there was a decline of 12.3%. If you would ask me how the outlook looks for this year,
I would do, yes.
That's what I thought. So for 2025, I'm very cautious. I'm very prudent because what we hear in the business, macroeconomics, then we see that there is a lot of uncertainty in the market. For instance, what happens in the US with import tariffs, every day a new figure, if I can call it like that, every day a new import tariff. So what I hope is that we can have a bit of calm in the business, that, for instance, with Europe, there can be a deal, a trade deal together with the US. And the ideal situation would be that there is a deal where there's no tariffs whatsoever. I also hope the same with China, in fact, between China and then the US, because if we are not careful, China will dump their materials on the EU market. So that's a afraid I have. But perhaps I'm not correct with my figures or with my sentiment. So definitely that, for instance, this fair will showcase that I'm wrong and that 2025 will be an excellent year. What we saw is that there is a slight recovery in consumer demand and in consumer confidence. So perhaps that's the first indication that 2025 will be a good year.
Well, maybe let's pass on these questions to Pieterjan.
Yeah, I can only build on that. So 23 was a correction year. We all also have to be honest. The years before we were spoiled. Nobody was spending their money on traveling, so it was all on interiors. So all the companies were running full. 23 we were corrected. Also Decospan in the same figures, around 10%. And then as from last year, we start building again. So last year we had an increase. We were not yet at the 22 levels, but this year we will exceed again the 2022 levels.
Okay.
And so I am prudently positive. I would not say we are growing by the market that is growing, because we all know the construction market is not growing at the moment. There is a lot of uncertainty and people don't like that. So when there is uncertainty, they don't spend. However, I think as if I can speak for my company, by having that proactive attitude, by having the balls, I would say, to keep on investing, we are taking the opportunity in a decreasing market to increase our market share.
Yeah.
And that is something where I'm positive of, and I can see that because of our size, that we can work into scenario planning. We can only control what we can control. And like Karla says, politics you cannot control. The only thing you can control is how you have your answers ready to the politics.
Yeah.
And that is Decospan, because of our size, we always manufacture our raw materials close to where they grow. Like the Chinese did, for example. If you could look now at the launch of a cattle on the stock exchange, and you see how much the success is in the battery industry, like of China, I think we should do the same thing in Europe. We don't have a lot of raw materials, but one that we have is wood. And what I like or what don't like, the stupidity of Europe, I will say, is that we do not protect our resources. We export, I would say, raw materials to China, where they make products and then they bring it back to Europe, which is commonly stupidity. So I think, not only because of the carbon footprint, but also because of the economic transportation of labor, because wood is usually in remote areas where it grows. So it gives labor to regions where there is not a lot of, I would say, employment.
Yeah.
So what I think Europe should cherish more the strategic value of their raw materials, keep the jobs inside Europe. I'm not talking about Belgium alone, because we are also European mindset. So into Europe. And then you export a value product. And that's also good for innovation, because it keeps the innovation on the continent. And that, for me, the best example that everybody will understand is Cattle, the battery company.
Sure.
And now they conquer the world with their technology. And I think we are a traditional market. Innovation is not on the level that it is with batteries, for example, but we have a market. I don't exactly know how much people it employs, but it's a lot, directly and indirectly. So let's cherish that more, and let's use this to create a new wave of growth for the next decades to come. Because like Karla, we corrected in 22, but I'm extremely positive for the forecast because of our forestry. However, we need to do it smarter.
Yeah.
And we should stop selling our raw materials. That's a bold statement I would like to make.
Yeah, I would just summarize it like that. It's a very clear statement, and you're really speaking very passionate about that. And I would also summarize like there is a clear economic relevance for wood. As we see, there is employment, and you mentioned innovation opportunities that there are. And there is also this sustainability dimension that you touched. Is it really a good idea to make wood travel around the world? And that brings me to that other topic about sustainability. You do see wood as a sustainable building material because of what?
Because it's a good alternative, I would say, to fossil-intensive products such as steel or such as concrete. And I think we still underestimate the power that wood can have in the construction sector and industry. Just to give you a figure, it's a figure that always pops into my mind. Do you know that for 1 cubic meter of wood, it captures CO2, so carbon, and 1 ton of carbon. So 1 ton of carbon within 1 cubic meter of wood. These figures are enormous, but I don't think that a lot of people know what the exact, I would say, advantages of using wood in construction.
No.
So I hope that also on European level, even Belgian level, also governments understand that a bit more, because recently I read an article in a Dutch newspaper where the Netherlands, the government, in fact, obliges their construction companies to use 20% wood in construction. Well, I hope that the Belgian government is listening to this podcast and also takes that as a good practice, because we have to promote wood as construction material instead of using fossil incentive products.
That's another clear statement that you made. So I'm sure when they are listening to our podcast, they will pick that up.
I'm sure they will
and discuss. Yeah, sure.
Well, I think we see that trend because it is indeed extremely important. And I would like to build on that, because wood should also be used according to the, I don't know if you're familiar with that, according to the Lansing principles. We
Cascade use.
We should not cut wood to burn it. If you look at the European figure, 40% of all I would say virgin wood is being used to burn. 40%. I just
40%?
got 40%. Wow. I got from the European Panel Federation, because they are very, very strict on the cascade use of wood, and I think that is already something. So wood by nature is capturing carbon, but if you would use it properly. Just think about the impact it could have.
It's about extending the life cycle as much as possible.
Yes. A life cycle of a tree, if you look at softwood, is around 20 to 30 years. For hardwood like oak, it's around 8 years. So if you could capture the carbon for 20 to 80 years by using it in construction, by then we have a new tree. And then you can use that again. So if you talk about circularity, by using Lansing in a proper way, I am 100% wood that wood is by default circular, and also in the carbon oxide emissions. Like a company like Decospan, we only our emissions are 8,000 tons a year. That's what ArcelorMittal uses a minute. It's steel compared to wood, but our whole company 8,000 tons a year. And we want to be carbon oxide positive soon. But that is so everything in the chain, not only the raw material by default, but also the manufacturing process is pretty sustainable. So everything is sustainable. So that's the beauty and the potential of our product. But we should be more proud of it. Like now we're always in defense. And that's what I think in our industry sometimes it's lacking. We are in defense. We should stop defending ourselves. This is our story. Yeah. And this is who we are. And stop in the defense mode against, of course, the big lobby of the big concrete and steel industry.
Maybe this defense reflex also comes from some misconceptions about wood, because I can assume sometimes people, they think, they go into the forest, they take out the logs, they actually destroying nature. True. How do you see that?
I think there's a clear misconception about wood that if you use wood, it immediately leads to deforestation, which is totally not the case. If you look at figures in Europe, and that's perhaps also what Pieterjan just said, is that within Europe, even the forest is growing. But what is essential in that is that you manage your forest in a sustainable way. I think there are a lot of initiatives from the industry to manage the forest sustainably. Look at, for instance, certification that already exists on a global level, FSC, PFC. So there are indications that if we use wood in a sustainable manner, that definitely it's a product for today and also for the future. I don't want to say that there is no deforestation. I'm not saying that. That's why also within Europe, there is a new legislation on EUDR, on the European Deforestation Regulation. The idea behind that legislation is a good one, but the way that Europe perceived that legislation and started with regulation, with reporting standards upon companies, that's incredible. It's insane, and you lose your audience, you lose the companies to really implement the legislation. That's why we started advocacy to say, well, you have to stop the administrative burden. The way that you now have to have a due diligence system in place, that's a good one. But the market can control each other. I'm quite familiar with the fact that, for instance, a company as Decospan, they will have questions from their customers, from their clients saying, how do you work in the business? What kind of wood do you work? But in the end, on top of that, also report to a government entity that even can control the data. I'm very sure that if everyone needs to apply and to every time ask for a figure, a data reference number, the government can't control itself. Leave out that administrative burden, focus on the real objective that we trade and that we deal with wood, which is sustainably forest, which comes from a sustainable forest.
I can only relate to that because Europe is all about bureaucracy. It was too much about bureaucracy. The good thing is, finally, I think they get it now. They understand now.
They tend to understand.
They tend to. Too late, but okay, that's usual here. But we also need to be careful because we live in an open world. Europe thinks we are not alone. So, for example, in America, these people are not in the same mindset as Europe sometimes is. So we also need to make sure that we get access to the raw material because other regions in the world, they do not oblige all these regulations. And that's the whole problem. So you even don't get access anymore to your raw material. So I think, first of all, it's not bad that Europe went, but they went a little south. They went too far. And I think the truth is in the middle. So I think we need to justify ourselves for what we do because we work with natural resources. And I think there are the right steps being set, but we need to be careful that we don't over-regulate like everything in our life. We shouldn't be treated as children. We should be treated as mature adults who know what they are doing. But we need some control. Otherwise, there are a lot of cowboys as well.
Yeah, your message is clear. From Europe, it's a very good initiative, and the idea behind it and the vision is good. Stop over-regulation and also try to look outside of Europe and keep the pace at the right place so that Europe doesn't come isolated neither.
It's true. It's what Pieterjan says is very clear. We work in a globalized business, so don't forget Europe is not alone. And what I miss at European level, at policy-making level, is have a bit of trust in companies. They know how to work. They know how to work in a business. And they also will know how to work sustainably. They are asked, they are pushed even by their clients to work sustainably.
And also, but just by default, by our business model, if we cut too many trees at once, we will have no work next year because we don't have the raw material. So it is, like you say, and people don't accept anymore wrongdoings. If we want to hire young people, they used to ask, how much do you pay? Now they ask, what do you do and how do you do it? They are more busy with how you do things in a just way, in a right way. So I think by default, our society is evolving towards this sustainable way of thinking and not only anymore in pure capitalistic way of thinking.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Which brings me to our third topic, actually, because you mentioned young people entering our business, which is a very good thing. They must somehow also be inspired and attracted not only by the product, but also about the opportunities to innovate. Do you see that there are still windows for new products, new innovations in wood? Has everything been figured out, or can we still do something?
Define innovation. I think innovation in companies is no longer on a product level. It's business model innovation. It's how do you go to the market? What is your route to market? That is one thing. How do you do your business? How do you treat your people? It's how do you develop new products? And innovation is not about inventing the new next thing. It's also how you train your people. What are my career opportunities? How do I have my work-life balance better presented? So how do I trace my wood into the forest? How can I justify that my product is right? How do I get my product easy to the customer without all the hazards? And so I truly believe that innovation, because of technology, will become so widely in a company. That's why I said before, we need to have a certain size as a company to be able to implement all these innovations on every level. And that's what puts me positive, because like you said in the beginning of the podcast, wood is already thousands of years the same. It's just how we transform the wood into a product that evolves. And I think innovation, and that's what makes me happy, is possible on so many levels that I don't think it will ever stop.
Yeah.
Our material will never change. A tree will be a tree. And perhaps we can one day find a way to let them grow a little faster and a little straighter so we can use board, but the base is the same. We just need to do it.
So you look at innovation really in a very broad way, with multiple options to innovate and to get forward with the company and the industry as a whole. You must have some initiatives also within Fedustria to enable those things.
It's true, because as Pieterjan said, innovation should be in the DNA of a company. It should be a strategic choice, because if you don't innovate, you stop at a certain moment, and then clients will go to another company. Yes, we have some initiatives, which we do with other federations as well. Factory of the Future, and I'm very glad that I'm sitting next to a CEO who just became Factory of the Future.
Congratulations.
And it's, Decospan received the award this year. And it's an award which really recognizes the most advantaged, future-oriented production companies in Belgium. But it's true what Pieterjan said. It's not only about product innovation, it's about digitalization, talent development, smart processes, sustainable products. But it's also, for instance, how you work with your employees, how you become creative, how you work with your energy, if you choose your materials thoughtfully. So it's a bunch of tests that a company needs to fulfill to become a factory of the future. So I'm very glad that Decospan is one of it. And I'm also, hopefully, can also ask to Pieterjan if they can become an ambassador for other companies within the Fedustria network. Because what I learned is that a lot of companies are looking how they can become a factory of the future, but sometimes they miss that mentorship.
Yes.
So hopefully Pieterjan can be an inspirator to other companies that hopefully will join soon.
Yeah, why not? Of course, I don't think anymore a company can see innovation on its own. I really see we have to see innovation as an industry, because in order to make it circular and so on, we need help of companies like Jonelin or something, where we can practice properly lancing and so on. So I truly believe, yes, we need to make sure that all companies survive. So and as a sector we need to survive, and as a sector we are all integrated. So I think it's important that we learn from one another. So yes, we are open for that, and I think it's not if, it's a necessity in order to protect our circular way of going forward. So yeah.
Oh, great.
It has been recorded, so no way back.
I will send an email next week. No, I'm joking.
Right. Just to wrap up, we're here at Interzoom, where Decospan is also presenting its new products and having meetings with their customers and so on. This is an important event for the company, right?
It's an important event for the company. Yeah, I like the biennales. I don't like shows anymore that goes every year. It's too much. Every 2 years, I don't see a show also anymore as a way to present new products. A show for me used to be to sell, then it was to show your new products. Now it is a networking event. You meet the whole industry in such a short notice, and you learn from each other. Just like you can visit companies who are Factory of the Future here. I can talk with all the CEOs in 3 days. We know what everybody's busy with. We have like a deadline for ourselves to make sure that we also still present our new products. True. But it's a very good momentum. It's like the exams when you're young. You need to know your stuff by the exam. So that's the same thing here. We need to be ready for every time that these major events come. And I think, again, Interzoom is for me the reference and for our veneer products. In the flooring, they are still figuring that out. But it's such an important event for us as a company, because then we get a deadline. And for us as an industry, because you meet each other in 3 days. And
I see. Very valuable. And then we are presenting as Decospan quite a lot of novelties and how we look at the market, because this is an exhibition. But offline, Karla, you said that you also have something to exhibit or to present, or you have kind of a scoop with you.
That's correct. I have a scoop with me, and that's a science-based study that we are doing. In fact, we are working with a well-known Belgian professor on a study where we're looking at how how the wooden environment affects the well-being of people.
Interesting.
And then we will compare that to other building materials. And in fact, in September, we will launch that event with then the results of that study. And I can already reveal that the results are very promising. So I would say stay tuned. Look at our social media channels, LinkedIn, Instagram, and more will come. So definitely something to look for.
That's exciting. Thank you for sharing that with us. Also, thank you both for being here in our small studio. It was very cozy. We had a very good chat. So thanks a lot for all your inputs and all your insights. I also want to thank, of course, our listeners for listening to this episode. And we'd love to have you all joining our community. So please check out also the Decospan social channels and the full podcast of Decospan, rooted in through the broadcasting services. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Oiter, for having us. Bye.
Thanks for the opportunity. Bye-bye.